We're just gonna ride into it. Well, good evening, Facebook family and friends. Welcome back to another edition of the Brothers-in-law. We hope that you had a excellent Thanksgiving week last week. I know I did. Welcome to the show, Mike. And like we were just discussing, man, I hope you had a good one yourself, man. Didn't eat too much.
Oh yeah, we always eat too much. You know how that go.
Yeah, it seems like we always do, but it was good, man. Like I said, we stayed home, had my mom and dad over, so my niece and my son came home
That's
from
great.
Alabama, so it was all good, man. I can't complain.
Yeah.
Uh, but tonight, I think we got a good conversation here. We don't have a video, however, but I think everybody is well aware of these two court cases made all the headlines throughout the country, possibly throughout the world.
Yeah.
We're talking about uh, Kyle Rittenhouse and Ahmad uh, Arbery
Yeah.
cases, and we're going to talk about the differences between the two. Why one was convicted and the other one was acquitted. Um, what we Mike and I well first let me go ahead and throw this out here. Mike and I are not attorneys. We are solely commentating on our personal experiences as law enforcement officers, talking about these uh, two different cases and how and why they played out the way they did. And one thing we got to keep in perspective here, I should actually say, Mike, and you probably, hopefully, you agree with me. What I would like everyone to get out of this is put race aside, and two, let's look at what was brought out in the courtroom.
Yeah. You know, I think it's a lot of lessons to be learned. Either, no matter what even with the verdicts the way they are, just these two incidents alone, I think it's a lot of lessons that can be learned from
Yeah,
just watching something like this. I mean,
yeah,
for the common question that people have when they say, "What happens if I shoot someone?" You know what I'm saying?
hmm
For self defense and things like that. Self defense is is always going to be a matter that's going to be debatable. You
yeah,
know what I'm saying? You have
yeah,
some clear cut incidents of self defense. You have some gray areas of self defense.
yeah,
But the bottom line is all those aspects have to be hashed out in the court of law, and it's going to be up to 12 jurors to decide whether or not your argument of self-defense was valid or not.
yeah. And let's talk about that. What you have to also understand is that the state or the district attorney's office, or we call them here Commonwealth Attorney's Office, has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. They hold the burden of proof. They are the ones to have to say, yes, Corey did go up here and he did commit this heinous crime. The defense doesn't have that responsibility. So that's what we need to understand once. The defense is just here to try to defend their client. They don't have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. But the prosecution does. They hold that burden to prove that.
And yeah, I absolutely. And in the most basic of terms, I would agree with you there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but in the climate today, I think you have some district attorneys who will feel that the charges are close enough, if not arguable, based on the pressures that they are getting from the community as to whether or not to charge some things or not. I do believe some attorneys, some district attorneys, are choosing to put the ball in the court of a jury to satisfy the community initially, anyway,
Well, yes,
instead of
but
making that call themselves. You know what I'm saying? I believe that you got some of that going on with the way things are today.
yeah, but they still hold that responsibility of that burden of
Oh
proof.
yeah, Yeah, you're right.
And that's, I think that's where what I would like for our viewers to keep in mind here. So you leave everything else, all your emotions out, and let's look at what was presented in the courtroom. That's what we have to go by, right? So I think we can look at that, make sure that we are tracking on that aspect of it, and then the both of them were claiming self-defense. Well, why did Rittenhouse get off on his self-defense and not um, the gentleman in the Ahmad case?
Yeah, two completely different scenarios, right?
Two completely different scenarios.
Let,
The
let's start. Let's start with oh, which one you want to start with? You want to start with talking about the Rittenhouse one, or you want to start talking about the Ahmad Arbery one?
we'll start with the Ahmad Arbery.
So, as I said, a lot of lessons. I think a lot of points could be brought up on that Ahmad Arbery. First of all, let me say this: as former police officers, as I really should be saying, as honorably retired police officers.
Yeah,
um, a lot of lessons to be learned from that Arbery one. First of all, I would never encourage. There is a such thing as citizens arrest. I think most people, or a lot of people, would understand that much at least. There is a such thing as citizens arrest. You can make citizens arrest on people. The most common way a citizens arrest is made is when police are actually present on the scene, and it's a misdemeanor crime, and you need the person who witnessed the crime to make the arrest, and that is called a citizen's arrest. Okay. But technically speaking, you can make a citizen's arrest on someone if you have enough information to a reasonable person to believe that a crime was committed, right? Now, that can be different from state to state. I mean, as
sure.
far as the specifics of that, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Some states require you have a little more than just reasonable suspicion. I'll say, to make a citizen's arrest. So it's different. You want to make sure you understand what's accurate in the particular area that you live. But I would never encourage someone to make a citizen's arrest to the point where they are trying to physically detain someone without the presence of police. I
Yeah.
would never encourage that. I never have encouraged that because of something like this. You
Yeah.
can get into some mess. You could get hurt. Anything could happen. In this case,
Yeah.
these guys who thought they were making a citizen's arrest or whatever they were doing ended up getting into a lot of trouble, didn't they?
Yeah, Matt. Hey, what's going on, brother? Good seeing you. He says in both cases, the aggressors pursued the victims to the scene of the crime. Yeah, and in Ahmad Arbery. Now, I think you actually need more than just seeing somebody run down the street or just assuming they committed a crime without knowing if in fact they did commit the crime. Um, the thing why I think they were able to get a quick conviction out of the Ahmad one was that hey mom, hey, how you doing?
Hey, Miss
Uh,
Taylor.
they like Matt just said, they pursued him. In other words, you when you get in these type of situations, the best thing you need to be is a witness. I agree
Yeah,
with you,
right.
Mike. You should not be trying to take matters in your own hands, because now you got to worry about the legalities of it. Because if you make this mistake like these gentlemen did here in the Mon case, you're going to get the short end of the stick.
Yeah, you're
There's
gonna
no
pay
way
for it.
there was no way around what they did. You can't um, claim self defense now. In Ahmad's case, now when they did unlawfully detained him, or
Or at
they-
least try to, right?
or at least tried to. Now he's now has the decision to make whether he's going to fight or flight.
Yeah.
And he tried to fight and get that gun because he had no idea what they were going to do to him, right? So you can't, just because he now tries to wrest a gun from you, now you doesn't give you the right now to claim self defense. right? You were in the wrong from the jump. You should have. The best thing those men should have done was be a good witness.
Yeah, be a good witness.
And,
And let's not forget, they didn't know for certain if Ahmad Arbery even committed a crime. They
exactly
suspected he might have,
right.
but they didn't know for sure.
They didn't know
So,
for sure.
is for them to go to the extremes of having their firearm. Yeah, it's legal. I understand it's legal to carry firearms in Texas. I understand that. But for them to go,
This was in Georgia.
or Georgia, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But for them to go to the lengths of trying to physically corner and detain some guy that they couldn't even say for certain if he committed a crime. Number one, they didn't witness the crime themselves. They're going off of what they heard from somebody else, very loose words to say, hey, he's over there. That's not a situation you want to take in your own hands. And let me break it down a little bit more. I'm gonna play devil's advocate here.
All right, go ahead.
Let's assume Ahmad Arbery was trying to in the process of doing a burglary. Doesn't matter in this case. As a citizen, I would never encourage you to physically try to get involved in stopping a suspect. What if Ahmad, if he was a burglar, what if he was armed with a rifle himself or a firearm himself? You know what I'm saying? I never encourage citizens to try to physically stop somebody. That's the first biggest mistake I think that anybody can make.
Yeah, you right. Matt, they created that situation for themselves. Now, like you just said, there's no way out. See, this is why you need to be a good witness. You can't take the law into your own hands, and I caution you to keep these things in mind, and it will behoove you to know your laws. Know, can you make a citizen's arrest in your state? What elements do you need to have in order to be able to do that? And if it goes south, you gotta understand you're gonna be held accountable.
Yeah.
This ain't the wild wild west where you just go out here and gunslinging and just start holding people against their will. Now you became, hey goat, you become the aggressor now. And then you're in a situation like this, you're gonna be held accountable and stand in front of the judge and explaining yourself. Now, now the biggest problem I had with this case was the length of time that they tried to cover this thing up because it was foobar from the jump. You had no reason to stop this man other than suspicion of trespassing. Really, I mean,
at the most, he had a misdemeanor crime, or maybe if he would have stolen something, I don't know, maybe you would have had a felony crime. But at anything, it's a property crime. It's not even a person crime. But whereas he hurt somebody, we're talking about a property crime here. How far are you willing to go as a citizen to stop somebody and make a citizen's arrest on a property crime? Number one, that isn't even your property. The property don't even belong to you. It's not even your house.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So I think, if anything, and I'm not a gun advocate, but I'm not anti-gun either. I do have a little issue with everyday citizens just carrying guns all over the place. But hey, that's neither here nor there. If you got a gun, you got a gun. The important thing is make sure you really understand what you could get into if you choose to get involved in something with that firearm. And I think if most people understood the amount of stress, the amount of things that you would go through just by choosing to get involved with your firearm, they'd be less likely to do that. It's not worth it for your family. You know what I'm saying?
No, and you look at this case here, both families of all four of them, all married. He's lost his life, and the other three are gonna probably spend the rest of their lives in jail. Father and son. Hold on, Matt. Let me see what he talking about. No one detained at the scene for further questioning. Yeah. I mean, like I say, it was a lot of holes in this situation here that just made it really bad from the get go. and I think it was also easy for the jury to reach a verdict in this because, like I said, that the number one thing they got that guy, I think the son, the shooter, to actually admit that I think he said that Arbery was not a threat,
Yeah,
and
it
so
wasn't a threat. It
when
wasn't a
I
threat
heard
until
that,
he grabbed the gun.
yeah, that was icing on the cake. I was like, oh well, y'all screwed,
Right.
right? And another difference in between this case, this prosecutor actually came with hardcore evidence. Remember what I said in the beginning? They had the burden of proof. She had to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that they intended to kill uh, Ahmad, and they were able to prove it. Right? They had the detention. They pursued him. Right? This was all in the makings for a situation to end bad. The burden of proof. The
Yeah,
state was able to prove that.
I agree with that. I mean, they had to prove their case. Uh, but again, I think the most important lessons are for those people out there.
A
And
tone.
again, Ray Atone, appreciate you coming on the show, man. And that's right, observe and report. We can't say that enough. As an
Yep.
average citizen, that's really all you should do. What could they have done? I'll tell you what they could have done. If they really thought Ahmad Arbery was had just committed a crime of burglary, they could have followed him. They didn't even have to
Mm-hmm.
make contact. Get on the phone with the police, follow
Mm-hmm.
him, Arbery, describe what he's wearing, what he looks like, what direction he's going, describe where he's going. You can give all that information to the police, the responding police. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And the police could, what would have happened is the police would have gotten there. They would have stopped and detained Ahmad Arbery, right?
Mm-hmm. That's
Because you're
right.
investigating the possibility of a crime. Okay. So, and then it takes that whole issue of an average citizen choosing to approach and stop someone. False imprisonment was one of the charges they had, choosing to
Yep.
falsely stop someone when
Yep.
they really didn't understand what was going on in the first
Yep.
place.
Good
You
point.
know
Go.
what I'm
Yep. Yeah. I don't know if I should say what I had did the other night. Well, actually, a little over a week ago, my wife went and picked her up. She was doing one of her events, and we were on our way home, and we were just talking and everything. And I see this guy ahead of us, kind of driving a little unusual. And at first, I really didn't pay no attention to it. I was like, all right, maybe he's texting. But then we got into our city limits, and I started paying a little closer because now he's speeding. He's all over the road. I said, okay, he's not texting and driving. I told my wife, I said, I think he's drunk. He's straight DUI. So I followed him a little bit, and I was like, you know what, I gotta call this in because he's going to getting somebody killed. So I called the dispatch, and she's like, "Well, how do you know?" I was like, how do you know he's drunk?" I was, "Well, I'm a former law enforcement. I think I'm pretty good at detecting, somebody's DUI." And I said, "I was a state trooper." And she's like, "Oh, okay, we'll get officer." So long story short, they ended up catching the guy. Gave the make and model of the car, gave him the license plate, told him exactly where we were. We're passing this exit. We're passing that exit. He's in the left lane. He's swerving. He's on the right shoulder. The more information you give them, the better. Hey, Mimi, the better, more information you give them, the faster they can get to you, and the better chances they're going to catch the perpetrator. So you being that great witness and giving play-by-play action, you staying calm on the phone, it's gonna, they're gonna get caught. And I believe if these guys would have done that, they wouldn't be getting ready to spend the rest of their lives in jail. Now,
saying?
they made, it was bad judgment on themselves. Now, do we think race played a role in this? I mean,
You know
I don't
what?
know. It didn't come out in the courtroom.
And here's my thought process on that. Um, the same kind of actions. I know a lot of people, unfortunately, that would have done the same thing because that's their mindset. So
Yeah,
whether they were racist or not, really is kind of beside the point because
yeah,
you got to look at the actions that they took, no matter what race they were, and what happened. You see what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
like as I said before, self-defense, there's some clear cases of self-defense, and there's some that are debatable. So
Yeah.
it's a difficult thing to discuss and try to come to a conclusion, even when you don't involve race.
Now,
Okay.
I would say it was, but it was after the fact because I don't think it came out in the courtroom. I think they came after the verdict. I think I remember seeing reading somewhere that somebody had posted a video. I think it might have came out in the courtroom. Y'all correct me if I'm wrong.
Mhm.
That uh, the sister or somebody had a video out, and I guess the son said, "Hey, I shot the end." Um, so now you raise the level a little bit. Okay, now we may be looking at some federal charges here. They may try to come after them for hate crime, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Now you see where the hate crime is coming. You got to prove everything in the court of law, folks. We can't just say, "Oh, well, he only did this because I'm racist." Okay, now prove it. Because if you're making that claim again, you when you come in the courtroom, you still got the if you're the complainant, you got to come up with the burden of proof to prove beyond a reasonable doubt whatever reason you bring that person in the courtroom for.
Right. In a
Uh,
courtroom, speculation ain't enough.
right, just speculating it ain't enough. We need proof,
We all can speculate.
right?
Oh yeah, they racist. There's some racist dudes,
Yeah,
stopping
well,
the
I mean,
black man.
yeah,
That's easy to speculate. You see what I'm
it's
saying?
easy.
But
Let's see
you
some
know,
proof. Hey, Carl, hey, thanks for joining us tonight, buddy. Uh,
and again, even when you don't include race,
yeah,
that issue alone is a difficult one enough.
yeah,
To you
yeah,
still got to decide, racist or not, you still have to decide whether their actions were reasonable. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
I don't think
yeah.
so. I don't think they're reasonable. It showed the court, a jury of 12 people didn't think it was reasonable either,
No.
apparently.
No,
Okay.
like I said, they were wrong 6 ways a Sunday on what they did. I mean, I shoot, in my humble
Now,
opinion, I think they took too long to reach the verdict. I mean, it was once that attorney, once the prosecutor got him to admit that he was not a threat. For me, it was over. He wasn't a threat, so okay. Well, why are y'all pursuing him then? Why do you shoot him then? Well, okay, well, he was going with see that took the whole self-defense argument out of it, in my opinion.
Uh, it didn't for me. Actually, I'm gonna be frank with you. For me,
Go
it
ahead,
didn't
go ahead.
necessarily because they may have been saying that at the moment they saw him, he wasn't a threat. However, one could argue that if you grab my gun, then yeah, you now become a threat, right? Now, as a police officer, if I were a police officer out there on the street doing that and trying to stop somebody, and that suspect grabs my gun, and we fighting with the gun, you're gonna get shot. I'm gonna tell you that right now. But that's a police officer, right? That's a whole
Like,
different
yeah,
set of
I agree with you.
authorities and circumstances and everything. Now, the average citizen, you create a situation that you're gonna have to, you trying to stop someone, physically stop someone when that's already a dangerous situation for you to do, and you're not even a sworn officer to do it. You see what I'm saying? That's where you run into
Yeah,
problems, and people need to think more clearly on doing stuff like that. These guys were overzealous. They were thinking that they was, I don't know what they were thinking. They think they could do this and they could do that, and they tried to stop some guy when they really had no real authority to do so. You know what I'm saying? And it was dangerous for them to
right.
do so. It was dangerous for Ahmad, obviously, right? And it's just that's something I would never encourage average citizens to do when they talking about citizens arrest. Always be
Yeah,
a good witness. Always call the police, and always let the police stop him. Don't take it upon
yeah,
yourself. Now, loss prevention officers, that's a whole different ball game. Theft, when you talk about theft from department stores, that's getting off the subject a little bit, but I only mention them because yeah, they do physically stop people and physically place people under arrest, and they're not sworn officers either, right?
yeah.
But it's just
Two good points here, Mike.
what we got.
Well, Carl
Matt,
says, yeah, they thought they were dirty Harry. Well, yeah, I mean, you try to take matters into your own hands, exactly, Carl. and you can't do that. You can't try to go out here and be that dirty Harry and say, hey, make my day.
Yeah, I
You went
agree.
out there, purposely looking for, and again, and Matt uh, really sums it all up again. They created this situation, went unwarranted, and then he died.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, absolutely.
You know,
I agree with you, Matt. You know,
again, I think we'll probably beat this, horse until it's dead, that you need to be a good witness. This is
yeah.
what happens when you try to take, matters into your own hands, right? So
For
now,
those of you who are not racist, and for those of you who have that mindset that I'm going to physically stop someone and I'm armed with a gun so I feel more secure in doing so, if you have that thought process, think again, because a lot could happen. You could try to stop someone and get into a fight with them, and maybe they grab your gun from you and shoot you. You see
yeah,
what I'm saying?
yeah,
So bad decisions by these three dudes all the way around. I don't think there's any way of getting around that. Dumb decisions they made, whether it was racially motivated. I don't even want to. I'm not even going to address that because it really don't matter, because
yeah,
they did something that I think a lot of people would do even if they weren't racially motivated.
yeah, yeah. And good point, Goat. They thought this was going to be some, good old boy show, what they were doing. And, you know, yeah, you got to
We were saying,
to cover your behind, like Goat was saying. I think you froze up a little bit, Mike.
okay,
But
I saw that on my end too.
yeah. Yeah, Matt, we all are too doggone old to play that game anymore. Hey Jerry, what's going on? But that's it. So now let's catapult over to Rittenhouse,
Okay,
right? Another self-defense case.
now this is a little different. You know what I'm
This
saying?
one this one is definitely a little
A little
different.
different. I mean,
And here's the point. Had they not had actual video footage of this, I think he would have probably been convicted. Uh, or he might have ended up with a hung jury. It
I certainly
depends.
wouldn't have had my 17-year-old out there on the streets in that situation to have to find out. I can tell you that.
Well, it's a lot of factors into that. I think when I saw the videos, when I saw the Rosenbaum actually reaching for his weapon, all right, dude, you ain't had to go do that. It was a lot of instigating. They pursued him. He, in fact, was running away.
Yeah,
That's a
he was
huge
running away
difference.
from them. He
Huge
wasn't. He
difference,
was
right?
running away.
These
I mean,
guys were
you can make
but hold on, Mike. They was running
right.
towards Arbery. They was running after him. Rittenhouses were running away.
Yeah,
So, that was a huge difference right there. If I'm doing everything I can to try to avoid you, but yet you still pursuing me, doesn't matter if you got a weapon in your hand or not. Uh, I got the inherent right to defend myself.
I agree.
Uh,
I agree. That's a whole different ball game. I
oh,
mean,
for sure.
you know, I think we all agree that we wouldn't have had our 17-year-old out there to begin with. It was foolishness of this mother to allow. I don't want to dismiss that, but let's just lay it out on the table so we can get past that. We
Yeah.
already agree that at 17 years old, he had no business being out here on the street with no AR-15. Talk about I'm
Well,
providing first aid and security. I'm sorry, you're a child. You have no business being in that environment. You know what I'm saying? And especially, traveling with we're talking about a kid here, okay?
yeah. I think you froze up again, but yeah, you talking about a child here, but I think, in my humble opinion, yeah, if that was my 17-year-old, I wouldn't have let him go across the state line to go do that. Now, had he just gone to do community service and that was it, that's a different story. But that's really, in my opinion, Mike, that's neither here or there. Try to reboot yourself, Mike. Come out and come back in.
Okay, are you back?
Hey,
Did I
Teresa,
freeze
are
for
you?
you?
Yeah, I got you, bro.
Okay, I froze
Um,
up for a little while there. I lost connection.
yeah. But I was just saying, they only live 20 minutes from where this all took place. So, okay, I see why they let him go. You're just 20 minutes. That was no different enough from us going from Canton to Akron back home, right? You get involved in something. Now, uh, you got to look at the laws. That he was asked to, uh, you know, watch over this building by the owner. Whoever, somebody there gave him a weapon. He did not cross state lines with that weapon, and mom didn't give it to me. If that were the case, then that mom should have been on trial. She should have been up there testifying to why you gave, him the gun, but she didn't. So there you go. I think then by their laws, he was able to carry a weapon.
Yeah, and I'm not even arguing the legality of it. What I'm
Yeah.
arguing is off the record, or I don't know if off the record is the right thing to say, but forget about what the law is. I'm not going to have my 17-year-old out there carrying a gun, talking about I'm protecting something in a riot environment. What if
Oh
he
no,
can get hurt?
I'm not
You know what I'm
either.
saying?
I agree with you.
Yeah,
I'm not either.
it ain't happening. But this kid was. Now, since he was, it's not against the law, I guess, right? And wherever he was. But at the same time, was it did the self-defense case, was that sufficient? I would say, yeah. You know what I'm saying? You got some dudes chasing you. One dude hit him with a skateboard.
Skateboard,
You
yeah.
could crack a skull hitting somebody with a skateboard. You know what I'm saying? The other dude had a gun. Yeah, I can definitely understand the self-defense. Now, does race have anything to do with it? In other words, what I'm asking you, Corey, is let's assume he was racist. Does that change the scenario?
No. I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
It,
I'm going to be devil's advocate because a lot of people want to push that narrative and say this is a racist dude. I don't know Kyle Rittenhouse. I don't know nothing about him personally to say he a racist dude. I don't know. But let's assume that, okay, let's assume he was. Doesn't make any difference in this scenario because the scenario played out how it played out. And you still got to show is this self-defense or not, right?
Yeah.
In this case, you convinced the jury of 12 people that it was self-defense.
See, and the icing, well, there were a couple icing on the cakes for me. Was one Rosenbaum, that was the guy he shot first. He shot him in the head. That was clear and cut for me. Second, when the guy that had the gun that approached him when he was down on the ground, that guy he had to admit in court when he said, the attorney asked him, so when you had your hands up, did Kyle Rittenhouse shoot at you? He said, no, he only shot at me when I point my gun at him. Well, self-defense.
I heard that. I thought to myself, well, that's a pretty clear-cut case of self-defense.
Yeah, he was the prosecutor's witness.
Only shot him when he pointed the gun. Okay, you
well,
can't get any more textbook than that, right?
Right. And he was down on the ground.
Yeah,
and then you had what they call him, the kicking guy. I forget what they called him. He was the only black person. He was black. They couldn't. He didn't. It was some. He didn't testify because he didn't accept the plea deal that he wanted because he had some other conviction. He wasn't no good guy. He had a rap sheet too, and he was trying to get a deal out of this. And the prosecution was like, "No, I ain't giving you that deal." So that's why he didn't testify. But there was one. He was the only black person, and Kyle did shoot at him because the guy ran up to him first and kicked him in the head. He shot twice at him, but missed. That's why that guy didn't come on there and testify. Boy, he didn't want to accept the plea deal, or they wouldn't give him a plea deal, I think it was, or what he was wanting to testify. But he wasn't targeting him. He was attacked.
Yeah, Kyle, it didn't look like in that moment, in that incident, at that minute, it didn't look like he was trying to hunt anybody down. He was trying to get away
No,
from this
right.
this group of people, this group of men who were pursuing him.
Yeah,
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Until he went down on the ground and they pretty much surrounded him. You know what I
yeah.
mean? So
Now, and then they said, well, he walked up to the police and everything, and they ain't do nothing to him. Well, yeah, you're right. He walked up to the police, but he had his hands up. And then it also came out in the courtroom too that he was OC sprayed by the which is pepper spray, OC sprayed by the police because they really blew him off because they didn't really know what was going on. They didn't know at that time that shooting had just happened, so they kind of blew him off and pepper sprayed and really just told him to get out of there.
that's what I'm saying. A lot of people don't realize that. You an officer, you in a chaotic environment. You got people yelling and screaming all around you. This kid comes up to you with a rifle strapped around his neck or whatever it was, and he got his hands up. You don't know what's going on. Why would you automatically arrest him? You see what I'm saying? You're not going to automatically arrest him right there for that, just at that scene. You're gonna see, and even after he tells you he shot someone, but you're gonna probably investigate a lot more. It's not just an automatic, oh, turn around, let me hook you up, you're going to jail. You see what
Yeah,
I'm saying? It don't work like that, folks.
yeah,
You still got to get information. You got to do some kind of quick investigation at the scene, at least enough to determine even if you have a crime or not, if there's someone hurt or not. There's like 100 things that an officer has to consider and look at and investigate before it comes to a point where I'm arresting you. Now, are there situations where I might put handcuffs on you for safety reasons? Sure, might be, may not be. That just depends. So it's not as black and white as citizens make it sound that you just go arrest him because he just shot somebody. It's not like that.
right. I mean, and in
Can you
his
hear me,
defense, he
Corey?
was, yeah, I can hear you. In his defense, I think he was trying to. I think you just froze up again, bro. I think he was trying to do the right thing. If you can hear me, can you just give me
Okay,
a,
I hear
give
you
me
now, Corey.
okay?
I hear you
I
now.
think he was trying to do the right thing by going and turning himself in. But also too in situations like that. All right, man. Thanks for joining us, man. Check us out next week, brother. I think too. It's a lot of moving parts with the police. They might not have been assigned as the arrest to be the arresting officers. When you have riot control, there's a lot of moving parts. There's certain groups of officers that do certain things. You have the arresting officers that make the arrest. You have
Right.
others that are blockers. The only thing they're focused on is just blocking certain sections. So it's a
Contact
lot,
team, arrest team,
yeah, yes, there's a lot of moving parts, and a lot of people out there are carrying firearms as it came out in the courtroom. Rittenhouse wasn't the only one with weapons out there. Um, that's why they
I,
work
I
on it.
agree with you, Tone.
What do you say?
He says he blames the parents. He shouldn't have been out there in the first place at 17. Keep your kids at home at night and watch how crime will drop. Look at Oakland. Yeah, I hear you, Tone.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yes, he was trying to do the right thing. One thing led to another, and now his life is forever changed as well.
Yeah.
But the difference is, he was being pursued versus
Yeah.
the other guys in Ahmad's case, they were pursuing him. Uh, and Jerry says, I have mixed views. I would probably not let my son do it. Yep. However, I don't know if I could let my city burn. Young
I
man,
let my city burn before I put my 17-year-old out there in a chaotic situation with a firearm where he could get hurt or killed. That's for sure. I hear you, Jerry.
well,
Uh,
yeah, but
but
I
hey,
like the end part.
that city can burn to the ground before I throw my kids out there. Right? That's what we're talking about. 17
Yeah,
year old. 17-year-old ain't got no business being armed in a chaotic situation that ain't none of his control. That's not in his own
well,
home.
I see where Jerry's going. I mean, when you think history, right? I mean, a lot of young folks in the early days in history suited up when they thought that, hey, this is our country. They think that was the most patriotic thing to do. Fight for your country. You want to save your town, city. And a lot of these folks, young men, did it at 16, 17, 18 years old. Heck, some probably even did it at 15 before we had age limits to fight.
You mean join
And
the
I think
military?
that's what
You
he's
talking
saying.
about joining the military though? Joining the military is
Well,
different than just getting out there in the neighborhood in a
yeah, but
chaotic
the
situation with an
mentality,
AR-15.
the mentality of protecting what's ours. It's our community. It's our way of life. I see what you're saying.
I only
I see what you're
disagree.
saying.
If
I see what Jerry's saying. But
if you
I wouldn't let my 17-year-old do it neither.
if you are an adult, okay, then you have earned the right to make those choices and put yourself in whatever harm's way you
Yes,
can.
bad. They wouldn't have went.
If you ain't no adult, you ain't mature enough or ready enough for something like that. Joining the military is a different thing because you go through a lot of training when you join the military. You see what I'm saying? You're not just thrown out there into combat. You go through a lot of training. It's at least before you ever even get to that point, if you get to that point. Okay. And you got people around you on your team. There's organization of how you move and fight and all of that in the military. Me and Corey, we were both in the military too, so we know how that go. You know what I'm saying? I went to the military at 18, so I know exactly what that feels like. I just have a problem. Not that this is the issue, because that's not why uh, Kyle Rittenhouse was found not guilty. He's found not guilty because he was being attacked and he defended himself with what he had. Okay, so I only say the 17 shouldn't be out there part because, yeah, this all could have been prevented if he wouldn't have been out there in the first place. But since he was, I
Well,
feel that
again,
the right verdict went down. That's all.
this is where we have to use caution, right? We have to start thinking about the repercussions of our actions when we sit out here and think, okay, well, I'm gonna go out here and protest, or I'm gonna go out here and protect these buildings or whatever. Okay, you better be under have the understanding that if things go south, you need to pack your bags and start heading the opposite direction and not get caught up in all the hoopla, because when you do, you could possibly be the next Kyle Rittenhouse. Now, a lot of people saying, well, if he was black, they would have gunned him down. No, not necessarily.
You know what?
And
It don't really make
and
a difference. In this
now,
case, he wasn't black, and it didn't
yeah,
happen. So, I mean, we can
yeah,
only argue what it was. We can speculate all day, and
you can speculate,
speculation
but
ain't gonna do no good.
and you can't make this one about race because he didn't kill no black people. So what? There were three white guys, and they were there for allegedly being there for Black Lives Matter. Well, they weren't black, so you can't throw race in it. The judge was white, his lawyers was white, the prosecutor was white, and 11 other jurors was white.
But people gonna say,
So
well, if this was a black guy in that situation, and when it gets to court, they would find the black guy guilty. Well, I don't know. We could speculate all day, but in this case, we talking about this
well,
person.
I
In
think
this
what they're saying, like
situation.
I think we talked about it briefly at the round table, and Tim said that, on a whole, majority of blacks probably would have got convicted. And I still disagree with that. You have to look at a lot of cases, and I always used to encourage people, man, take one day when you ain't got nothing to do, man, go sit in the courtroom and see how these judges rule. You're gonna see a lot of black folks get out a lot of stuff. Cause I know some days I left the courtroom kind of hot, like that. Gone. I can't believe he let this joker go. And they got a rap sheet long as from here to the West Coast to you, Mike. And they getting let off on things. But the thing is, it just don't fit the narrative, and you don't hear about it on the news. Matter of fact, the same day that Rittenhouse was acquitted, so was another black man, Andrew Coffey. He was acquitted, and the story behind that one was the police came to the house to issue a warrant or serve a warrant for his dad, but I don't think his dad was there. So they let off a percussion grenade and woke him up. He thought he was somebody trying to break into the house, and the problem was they didn't know. The police were saying they shot first, and he said no, they shot first. So it was a little discrepancy within that. But I can't. Only thing I can't remember is how the girlfriend got killed. They were trying to say he killed her, but I think she just got caught in the crossfires. Well, come to find out, he was claiming self-defense, right? And he was acquitted for what happened. And so, he could have easily been found guilty too, right? But no, you got to let the facts play out. The prosecution has the burden of proof or burden of the state to prove that this individual committed this crime. They weren't able to prove that in this case. Therefore, they had to acquit him, even though, yep, shot at the police and the girlfriend got killed. Right. So
Yeah,
it happens.
I see what you're saying.
Again, like I said, you didn't hear about this. Why? Because in my humble opinion, it didn't fit their narrative. Jerry, I think Jerry's responding back to what you're saying. So I'm saying in the absence of a strong family guidance, i.e., father or mother, a young man is going to run off into harm's way, um,
thinking he's doing the
thinking
right
he's
thing
doing
with
the
the
right
Lord.
thing with the Lord of the Flies.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Okay, I hear you. I see where you're coming from, Jared. I see
Yeah.
where you're coming from. I like the Lord of the Flies outcome.
Yeah.
That was good. That was
Good
good.
one, Jerry. But it's the difference between the two trials, right? What is it?
Yeah. Well, if anything, the big lessons that I would want people to take from that is that if you are the type of person that feels that you always want to, number one, carry a gun, and you're the type of person who you are prone to get involved with something that you feel is necessary for an armed person to get involved with. Just know what you're getting into. Know what happens. And we talked about this. I think he talked a little bit about this when we had Joe Leonardo on one of our previous shows about using a firearm and what entails, what comes with that. As a matter of fact, I'm going up to one of Joe Leonardo's range courses this coming Sunday. And
Okay.
I'm going there, so I'll be able to talk a little bit about that on the show when I get back.
Okay.
But just know what you're getting into. If you're the type to carry a gun and you want to get involved and make citizens arrest and put yourself in harm's way, you better have a clear understanding of what you're going to endure if you ever get into some mess. If you ever have to shoot anyone, well, you're going to have to argue self-defense. And guess what? A 12 jury of 12 people may not agree with you. They may say that ain't self-defense and you going to jail. You know what I'm saying? So
For
you
a
got to
long
think
time.
about all those things. People get so
Yeah.
comfortable carrying firearms and thinking that they're going to get involved in something with this false sense of security because they're carrying a firearm. And they
Well,
don't really have an understanding of what can happen if you get into some mess. That's all.
it depends on who's the weapon holder. I know a lot of guys. See, Virginia is open carry state, so a lot of people open carry here, and it's not about getting in and shooting, having the old go okay corral, wow 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 shooting boom 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 boom. It's not like that. I look at it for me, it's more of a deterrent. I I see you with a weapon, so I'm less likely to want to try to confront you over an issue, right? I think more people should open carry. In my humble opinion. Matter of fact, I was at the courts the other day, and uh, several black ladies coming in, getting the paperwork for carry concealed. So, and why are they doing it? They want for protection. One girl, I was sitting there talking to her because she was asking questions about state police, and we're sitting there chit chatting. And her boyfriend has been trying to kill her. he's up in New York, she's here now. She's afraid he's gonna come back after her, right? I said, you have to protect yourself because now you got to think about the arrival of the police and how long it's going to take them to get there, and who's going to be there. She lives by herself, so who's going to be there to help her, right? So I'm a huge gun advocate when it comes to open carry and carry conceal. I think it's a Second Amendment right. You had that right to do it. If you choose to do it, do it. But like you said, Mike, if you're going to use it, you better know when and the outcome of pulling that weapon out. And as
Right.
soon as
Know what
because
you're getting into. I
you got to
mean,
know what you get into.
I
Uh,
just saw you got a case coming up that's probably going to start picking up some steam here. That gentleman that was shot in was it Columbus, uh, where the officer said that the officer was on some
you froze up again a little bit, Doc.
at him or something like that. Can you hear me?
Say that you froze up. Say that
It
again.
was like it was a case where I think it was Columbus, Ohio, where an officer claimed that a guy had pointed a gun at him, and the officer was on some kind of arrest task force. Saw the guy, I guess, claimed that the guy pointed a gun at him, and he shot and killed him. It's probably going to start picking up some steam here. I can't remember the kid's name off the top of my head, but and in this case, the officer didn't have a body cam. Now, why officers today, at least within the last 10 years, 10, I'll say 5 years. Within the last 5 years, if you're a department that don't have body cams, you are grossly doing your own officers a disservice. You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
like I told you, we didn't have body cameras, and I don't think they still. Not all of them still do. I know they
Is that
were.
right?
Yeah, I know they were doing a pilot program, trying to get them. Uh, I don't know, to be honest with you. I know a lot of them still don't have it. So
Well,
I rely heavily on my dash cam. That was
yeah.
that was real important. I want, because at first I didn't have them. Like, I first got my car from the academy, I didn't have them. But when I got my second vehicle, I made sure that, yeah, hey, I definitely want a camera in there. But so all the vehicles have cameras in them right now. So
Yeah,
uh,
when I first got them cameras, I was a little uneasy with working with a body camera at first, just like probably most officers when they first get them. But after having it, I like I said, I couldn't imagine being a police officer without a body cam now.
yeah,
And
yeah,
for departments who don't have them today, the days are gone where people just automatically believe the officer. You see what I'm saying? Those days, unfortunately, those days are gone. We can make all the complaints about it we want. Yeah, I still say it's way more honest officers out there than not. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
However, it is nice to have video of something that to back up what you say. And unfortunately, average citizens today, that's what they expect. There's no longer, I'm just going to take that officer's word and take it for granted.
yeah,
So, and I would never want to be in a situation nowadays where I'm saying something happened and ain't no body camera footage of it to prove right or wrong. You see
yeah,
what I'm saying?
yeah,
So, it is what it is,
yeah,
but it's coming up. So, that's going to pick some traction here.
yeah. I have to keep
Real
an
quick.
eye out for. Go ahead, like, share, and subscribe. You like this content of this video here? You like this type of topic that we're talking about tonight? Leave us a comment below what you're thinking. If you want to get a hold of Mike and I, and you want us to talk about a particular video, hit us up in the email, the brothers-in-law21@gmail.com. It's on your scroll there, on the bottom of the screen, the little ticker there, or contact us on Facebook at Brothers-in-Law, and on Instagram at Brothers-in-Law_21. Let us know what you think. What do you think the differences between the two trials were? Uh, and my final thought on this is, you know, when it comes to proceedings like this, I always say let's hear the facts out in court. It's not what you know, is what you can prove in the court of law. We got to be able to, the prosecution has to prove the burden of proof. That's their responsibility, right? The defense is can do. They're just there to defend. Nope, my client didn't do it, but they got to present facts too. But they don't have to prove a burden to prove the burden of proof. I think I
Yeah,
said it right.
and always be a good witness. My fact,
Yeah,
always be a good witness. I
yeah,
don't want to have to go to court and have to have a jury of 12 people decide on my fate. You know what I'm saying? Just be a good witness. Get on the horn, call the police. Let
yeah,
the police get their hands dirty. That's what they're
yeah.
paid for. You're
That's
not
what we
paid for
pay
that.
taxes for. Yeah, and not to jump to conclusion on things, and everything does not always have to, let's not let race be the first and let it play out in court. Obviously, in Rittenhouse, it didn't play out. They try to say he was, a member of the white supremacists. Well, you got to prove that in the court of law. That white supremacy thing never came up in the case. So we can't keep saying that.
And
Uh,
not only that, even if race did play a role, even if somebody is racist, doesn't always mean that's will affect the outcome of what happened in a given situation. You know what I'm saying?
mm.
If I hit you over the head, whether I'm racist or not, doesn't mean anything. You still got to show that I hit you over the head, right? So I mean,
I like Jerry. I like Jerry's point here, Mike. So the big question is if politics will not allow law enforcement to do their job, and from this case, they're trying to scare the public not to get involved. Where does that leave law and order?
again, a very good arguable
Yeah,
statement right there, Jerry. That I see that could go in many different directions as
sure.
far as how you want to we'll talk about that. Um, yeah, I think politics does make the job of law enforcement a lot harder. I think the media makes the job of law enforcement a lot harder. I mean, tell you the truth, I'm not even sure if I would encourage young folks to be in law enforcement today. But if they do, they need to have a clear understanding of what they're getting into and what they could get involved with.
See,
So
but I would because we need good officers.
that's the catch 22. Yeah,
We
you
we
always
we,
need good
we really
officers.
do. But you had see for the difference is, Mike, for you and I, we knew this was our calling. At least I did. I knew my whole life I wanted to do something in law enforcement. You was kind of a change,
Yeah,
career.
I was on the fence. I mean,
You know what I mean?
growing up, I
But
didn't
but
think about it, but
but for me, it was a calling. This is something that you have to want. I mean, it's almost like we everybody joined the military. You joined the military for a specific reason, but at the end of the day, you really joined the military to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That's what you really joined the military for. All this college tuition and paycheck and all that. Now that's all secondary. Your primary reason is support and defend the Constitution of the United States. That's your primary reason for joining the military. Some people just didn't realize. Same thing in policing. You got to know this is what you're doing. You are supporting and defending the Constitution of your state against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and to uphold the laws and to execute the laws therein of your locality. So you got to understand that going into it. Like for me, like I said, my whole life, all I want to do is be in something involved with law enforcement, whether it be an attorney, a police officer, whatever. I just knew I needed to be in law enforcement. So for me, I think, and being passionate about it, it's calling, right? Yeah, same thing for being a pastor. It's a calling to be a minister. You just don't wake up to, I think I'm gonna go out here and start me a few churches. Right? You do that, you doing it for the wrong reason, and guess what? You're gonna get burnt in the end. You get in here in the law enforcement with that same mentality, you're gonna go out here and just, try to be dirty Harry out here and just shoot them up, bang, bang, everything. Guess what? You're gonna you're gonna get burnt. So I'd highly encourage young people to get into it, but make sure this is really what you want to do. Make sure you know your why.
yeah, make sure you
Why you
understand if you get in this. There's in my opinion, there are extra risks now not involved with just handling people on the street. There's extra risks now involved that you could end up in court having to justify yourself to a degree where you understand because they charged you with a crime
Right.
and you had no intentions of doing a crime, or you did something that you felt was reasonable, but yet
Yeah.
you up on the stand now being charged with something, you know, and you leaving it up to 12 people to try to figure out whether or not you did made the right decision. So there's just
Right.
some extra stuff that you have that officers have to deal with that has put a whole additional element onto the job itself, to where you really, I mean, we can do a whole nother show on this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You really got to think about a lot of extra stuff. Let me just leave it
Yeah.
at that
Yeah.
before you decide. Hey, we
Yeah.
do need good cops. If that's what you feel you want to do, I ain't gonna discourage it. You know what I'm saying? Uh, just know what you're getting into. That's all.
Yeah. All right. So I mean, let us know. Hit that like button for us. Hit that share button. Hit that notification button. You like the content of this? Mike, are you gonna be around next week, or do we need a?
Actually, you just made me think of something. My daughter got a deal going on next Thursday, so we might have to maybe do a recorded show earlier in the week, maybe,
Okay.
or postpone next week. I'll let that Thursday is going to be a bad day. Thursday and Friday is going
Okay.
to be a bad day.
All right. Well, next week I think we'll just record one day early or something like that, and
We can
still
do that.
put something out for Thursday. But we'll do our best to be back on next Thursday, y'all. Share this out to everybody. Let's get the word out. Let's get the discussion out and talk about the difference between these two trials, right? And remember, we love you. We're the brothers-in-law, and we hope to see y'all next week.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. Peace.
Peace.